everyone, welcome back to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly hangout here in San Francisco, California at 11 a.m. every Wednesday. I'm your host, Mike Mahardy. So glad you can join us here on YouTube, Twitch, GameSpot. Here's always with Peter Brown, reviews editor.
As always.
Sonic is good again.
Sonic is great again, apparently.
I've never beaten Sonic game. I've never played more than like 2 levels, so maybe this is my chance. You've been playing on the Switch?
Yeah, just a little bit, and it's as good as Matt Espinelli says in his review.
Dope. Yeah, that's up on GameSpot. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about Sonic. Rob Handlery, you were up late last night playing a game that has caught a few of us out of nowhere. Observer.
And I'll say it now. I'm a little brain dead. I was up pretty late playing Observer. That game's real cool. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. As always, if you're joining us, we're in the chat on YouTube, Twitch, and GameSpot. And as always...
Wait, I was so busy talking to you guys, I didn't realize. Where's Kelly?
Oh my God.
Is she in the bathroom?
I haven't seen her today, actually, now that I think about it.
We don't have a 4th co-host.
We need a co-host.
What the hell
What's
was
that?
that? Oh my God! What? It's John Luke Seidke! Aren't you in the back? Shouldn't you be on the TriCaster? Who's doing TriCaster?
Oh shit!
What a pleasant surprise.
Huh.
Many of you who watch the Lobby weekly will know Jean-Luc. He's usually on our TriCaster back there. He's the voice of God, switching stuff in the back room. We've got Eric Tay on the TriCaster today and Richard Lee producing stuff from behind the scenes. So we figured, why not bring Jean-Luc on? Because Callie's out of town. She is doing some preview coverage.
Wait, you guys pre-planned this? I thought that was a surprise.
Yeah, I abandoned the joke.
I liked it.
I think the hidden wall was enough of a surprise. I don't think anybody knows that's there. Anyway, people don't think that was there. But anyway, Jean-Luc, good to have you. I know you're a big Sonic fan.
Oh yeah, I love Sonic.
You put up a history of Sonic video recently that you worked on. Did a lot of research on the series. We're going to get through a lot today. There's Nidhogg 2. There's Agents of Mayhem. I know you're loving that, Rob. Matterfall. Sonic. What's XCOM?
Oh God.
I think
We got to play the expansion, War of the Chosen. We're going to talk about XCOM's War of the Chosen expansion. We got like 5 minutes in the show before I mention it. But anyway, we're so glad everybody could join us. As always, we have a giveaway later on the show. I'll tell you all about that later on. Shiva's going to put it in the Twitch chat, and then we're just going to tweet it from GameSpot's account. So go follow GameSpot in the meantime on Twitter if you have not already. Cool. A few news items. We talked a little bit about Lawbreakers over the last couple episodes, but we have our official review up on GameSpot. Miguel Concepcion wrote it.
And YouTube.
You can go watch them in both spots. You can go read them on GameSpot. Read it on GameSpot. It's a good game. We all liked it. Steep learning curve, from what I gather. We did have a few more problems on PS4 than we did with PC. The tutorial. Sorry, our wall is still
alive.
shaking. There's like not tutorials on the PS4 version that are present on PC,
Which you can also get money from.
and you get like rewards from it. So I
weird.
guess PS4 version is not the most ideal place, although I played a little bit on PS4.
I feel like the controls just wouldn't be
Yeah,
what
this-
I'd want either.
this game's
Right,
very
even
much.
that alone.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked a couple times about how it very much feels like a PC shooter. I like it. I think it blends those the hero shooter elements of like Overwatch or the lesser known Battleborn, but it also kind of brings in that Quake Unreal Tournament kind of feel. Our full review's up on GameSpot. You can also watch it on GameSpot or YouTube, so go check that out.
I heard it's not doing very well.
I think like day after launch only had 3,000 players peak.
Yeah, and then like
Oh,
a couple
man.
days after
Concurrent.
that, it was like 1,000 or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
Right. Yeah.
That sucks.
It's weird. Yeah, I don't know.
That's too bad.
What was
Was
it?
that across all platforms?
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, that was,
Maybe
it
it
was,
was just-
it was just
was it just
Steam.
Steam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Interesting. I wonder. I mean, it was kind of under everyone's radar for a while, and then we started playing the alpha, the beta, and then before we knew it, we're like, holy shit, this is coming out on August 8th? It's here, which is kind of the case with a lot of games this year, but that's kind of a bummer to hear because I enjoyed my time with this game. It's fun.
It reminds me of when like Tribes was rebooted a couple years
Oh, right,
back.
yeah.
And like people were kind of excited for that because it was like, it's a return to like PC, like weird mobility shooters, but it didn't really catch fire. And I wonder,
Just not enough marketing, maybe.
That's what something like that. I mean, it was
tastes have changed.
like who was published or who was doing marketing, Nexon or whatever.
Nexon, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how it makes me think of. I wonder how Quake Champions is going to do.
Right.
I wonder if that. I mean, Bethesda is always really good about pushing their games, but
prevailing sentiment I've seen from people is that they're like, oh, the gameplay is really fun, but I don't necessarily like the world or the characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that 90s, very like like, oh, good kill, you know,
Yeah.
like, and comparing it to like, well, I think it's a very different game from Overwatch. Like, Overwatch does have this beat in terms of like they're fun characters that are like inviting and you want to play as, you know, like May or something. Like, I don't care about the characters in this game at all. I care about them as video game like characters with mechanics.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. From what I played, there was a couple of classes. It's tough to find your role in this game, but once I did, I had more fun with it. But I don't know if I'll go back to it with everything else that's going on. Unfortunately, maybe that's just kind of a prevailing sentiment across the board. But either way, we can go more in depth.
Good game.
Yeah, it's a good game.
It's sad.
Yeah. Overwatch last week. This is kind of a little outdated, but still worth mentioning because I always bring up Overwatch news. Team Deathmatch was on PTR last week on PC. So now you can actually people got the chance to play just without the actual objectives, just killing each other. So I'm interested to see how the character meta kind of shapes up in that mode specifically. You see Ben Janka and Eric Tay, if you're watching this live, that's their live stream right there, both seasoned Overwatch players.
As someone who has not played Overwatch, I was kind of shocked when this was announced because it was like, wait, there isn't Team Deathmatch already?
It's always been like escorting a payload or capturing
Yeah,
zones
I mean,
and
this is like Street Fighter, and I don't know. In my opinion, it's like Street Fighter 5 shipping without a proper versus mode.
It's kind of funny to think too that Lawbreakers doesn't have a deathmatch mode.
I think Lawbreakers is more surprising because that game, at least all the characters are. The game is designed where all the characters are balanced to be able to kill each other.
Yeah, like offensively.
Overwatch, it's like, you know, you can kill someone as like a mercy, but you're not really meant to.
Sure.
You know, that's not the point of that character. So this, I at least understand why they kind of held off on that because I think they want people to think of it more as a you know,
that's just my ignorance
cooperative
showing,
game.
having not
I
played.
mean, I played a lot of Overwatch, and then when they announced it, it's like, oh shit, they don't have Team Deathmatch. That's right. It is weird because, but Jean-Luc, as you said, a lot of those characters, like a couple of my mains, are not meant for killing. I mean, Zarya can kill people, Ana can kill people, but you know, it's not their go-to MO.
Well, so how does it feel? Have you guys had any time to play Deathmatch?
I haven't. No.
I'd really like to know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, this game is always something I'll go back to, and I'm interested to see it more. Do we know if it's still on PTR? I believe it's off now. I could be wrong, but we'll have to check that out. Tay might know.
Tay would know.
He's on the Voice of God right now, but yeah, you can go watch this live stream if you want to check out more of it if you haven't played it yet and you're interested in going to play it. And then yesterday, Undertale came to PS4 and Vita.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is when I'm finally going to play it. I've been wanting to for like 2 years.
It's not that long.
I know Jake Decker just started on his Vita like on this morning's commute or last night maybe. But
is that why he had it at his desk?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why he's using it.
Because I was like, what? A Vita?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really want to play this. We talked more about it. Callie's a huge fan of it. She she's out on like a preview event this week, and I think next week a little bit too. But she was saying that she's definitely going to replay it, and it's one of those games that, I mean, we had a freelancer, I think.
We had a freelancer,
who did the review, but like the freelancer sent it in. You're like, this freelancer really likes the game, and a bunch of people around here played it, and everybody really fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's a very quirky, very surprising, and funny experience, and it's not too difficult. You know, I'd recommend it to anybody who likes video games.
Cool. To backtrack briefly, Group Shoe Riot, official #1 GameSpot fan, said the Team Deathmatch in Overwatch is still in PTR. Didn't go live yet officially though. Okay. But yes.
And this was handled by my friends at 84 Productions, John Ricciardi. Mark is no longer with them. He's at Enhanced Games now. But localization company who does stuff for like Fire Emblem and like all sorts of stuff.
One of the reasons I love Persona 5 so much, like one of the many reasons, is that it's really good about kind of playing with the RPG tropes. And I know Undertale, that's a huge draw of that
It
too.
is like a primary component.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you guys? I don't think you've played Undertale.
No, but we talked about it before, and this is a time to come back to it. Definitely.
I'm assuming you have.
Oh yeah, I love Undertale. I bought the collector's edition, although I think it doesn't get shipped for another month or something like that, which kind of sucks. But
interesting.
That's fine.
Cool. That's all the news I had laid out. Again, we have a giveaway. I'll announce that later on the show. We'll have Shiva tweet it from our account. But let's get into what's new this week. Nidhogg 2.
Yes.
Is out. Our review is up. Oscar Deas over in the UK reviewed it. He likes it. I saw you and Justin playing in the office.
Yeah, we really like it too. I think there's some things it does that are new that are good, and some that maybe aren't for the better.
Yeah. I mean, for context, people who don't know, the first game, very minimalistic, kind of, what you would see as an indie game, but it's 2 characters sparring across several stages on one level, or several levels on one stage.
Yeah, but it's like a simple fencing sprinting game, and you have little things you can do, like you attack low, medium, or high. You can throw your sword, and you can use the position of your sword or how you throw it to like deflect incoming attacks.
Yeah.
So it's simple on the surface, but a lot of depth and ways to strategize. And that's still the same case here. The visuals have changed quite a bit. They're very divisive. I love them.
It fits the tone very well, I think.
Yeah.
If I were to look at this right now and not know the game, I'd be like, I
It's just
can't
the character.
stand it.
It's just the character models for me. Like the
Yeah.
backgrounds, I love. Just something about the movement.
I love
of
the run.
What are they
character
supposed to be?
models.
Needs?
I don't know,
Nids?
but you can customize them quite a bit now. So you
Yeah.
can change equipment on their feet. I think their ankles and their, like almost every segment of their body can be changed, customized, which is nice.
So they don't always have to wear chastity belts like these two?
Right. But I mean, yeah, like the visuals, like sometimes there's a level where you end up like in the belly of a beast, and it's just like all these like you're surrounded by just disgusting things, but it works. But so what you're seeing now is a dagger and a bow and arrow being used.
Several weapons now, right?
This is the thing that bothers me. It's not so basically what the game does is you die frequently and you respawn, and whoever did the last kill is the one who gets to run to the other side of the screen and progress. So when you come back in the original Nidhogg, you just have the same weapon you always had. In Nidhogg 2, you may not come back with a standard rapier. You might come back with a broadsword or with a bow and arrow or with a dagger, and they all have different properties and require different tactics to use properly. The problem is I don't think there's a set order with which they appear after you die, and you can't disable this option, regardless if you're playing offline or online or against the CPU. And for someone like myself who really enjoys the purity of just using like a single weapon
And the
in this,
balance, right?
and the balance as well. I mean, I think there's room to explore all these weapons, and I'm not going to say that they're imbalanced, but there was something very simple to understand about just the one weapon. And so maybe it requires a little bit more playtime, but I know that like when my reach goes from what you're seeing here to like a little stabby dagger, or my speed changes because I have to load my bow before I can fire it, it feels very different, and it puts me at a disadvantage. I'm okay with it being in the game, but it absolutely needs an option to be disabled.
Yeah.
And it's one of those scenarios where I can't believe that like feedback wasn't given if they gave this to like outside people to test.
Yeah.
Or maybe the devs were just so steadfast in their plan. I don't know, but give players options.
Yeah.
Give them options, especially when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, because watching it seems like it could lead to some hilarious hijinks, just not knowing what weapon you're going to spawn with. As you said, it can be fun, but I definitely in the long run, if I was going to try to get better at this game and someone was actually like playing, like I see Gadge here at GameSpot's in our Twitch chat, and he's one of the best Smash Bros. Players I've ever seen. Like, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like trying to get good at something, and of course, there's that randomized RNG element of it.
Yeah, it's
or
like
at
if you
least we
couldn't
think
pick
it's
a character in Smash, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you just
yeah.
got assigned one, and it was like, okay, I guess I'll figure out how to play this character.
Yeah, you kind of notice every time anybody gets the broadsword here, it's just one vertical slash that covers like the entire character model.
Right. Now, so there are also like nuanced little things you can do. Like you can roll underneath a character. You can even from a roll do a little hop, but you can like use a specific weapon to change the properties of that hop. It's kind of neat what it opens up, but again, yeah, the randomness, or at least the seemingly randomness of it all is, and in my opinion, perhaps the only fault this game has.
He or she may be just trolling, but Rad Skull in the Twitch chat says, "Is this a ripoff of Nidhogg?" Right here, if you're watching this, you could see that snowman centipede. It reminds me of the Calvin and Hobbes snow creatures he made in his front lawn. These grotesque things. I really do like the art style, or at least the tone they're going for.
It's great, and there's like a dozen levels. I think I've only played maybe about half of them, and each level will have, it's got maybe, I think you can see here like 7 or 8 screens based on those squares up top.
Yeah.
And each of those screens like carries a little bit of a variation on the overall theme. So
At the very least, I mean, yeah, it's a good game. At the very least,
it's
always a great like party game.
Yeah, if you ask me, it's a great game. I mean, the moment we started playing it, it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I was just enjoying watching you.
It's definitely a party
it takes
game.
a minute.
Yeah.
Like it's fun just to watch and laugh at someone just like eat it after a kill or talking shit or something.
I watched Justin and Tay play a match for over 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's that
Yeah.
attrition, the tug of war.
It was nuts.
So that's the ultimate goal, as the screen would suggest, getting eaten by that dude.
Yes, which I think might be the Nidhogg.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, it all makes
Say
sense.
Norse.
I was gonna say it's
something.
got to be something of like an actual mythical creature, like I guess everything.
What's that chicken doing? Get out of the way.
It's like a cockfighting ring. except
How
there's
are the
people in it.
stages? Because in the first one, I always felt like I went back to the castle stage. Like I thought that was like the purest stage to play on.
So I've only played a few of them. I mean, it's certainly like the visuals disrupt some of the clear like layouts of levels a little bit, but I didn't find myself ever thinking like, oh, this level sucks or that level sucks. At least in my experience, it's so much about that one-to-one engagement of the fight that the stage for me was secondary.
Well, for me, like I didn't think any of the other stages sucked. In the first one, it was more that they would introduce sort of like outside traps or like pitfalls that are like,
Yeah.
oh, well, we seem to keep falling in this pit, so let's just pick that stage because it doesn't have any of that. Kind of like how people do like, Final Destination and Smash. Sort of
Yeah,
like
right,
the
right.
purest.
I gotcha. Yeah, I guess I haven't played enough yet to really form a strong opinion about that, unfortunately.
Eric Green in the YouTube chat, Jean-Luc was saying, yeah, Nidhogg's the worm that devours the world tree's roots.
Yes.
Well, in this case, grotesque Simpson characters, as people are calling this. This level looked frustrating, but in a funny way. These doors opening and closing and stopping arrows and stopping your face.
One of my favorite strategies is to just stop, like when I get control and wait for the person to come to
Right.
me. Like those sort of stalemate standoffs are really tense.
That's the most like disturbingly benign way to say that. My favorite activity is holding my rapier out for someone to run into it and just impale their sternum on.
Even having like these new weapons just like in the level, right? Or like at certain stages so you can predict.
That kick. Oh, that kick. I love the revamped kick.
There's like a dive kick looking kind of thing.
That was
now,
in
right?
that was in the first game as well. But the kick, the standing kick you do now, I don't think it was infinite before. Now you can just spam it and like literally kick your way across the screen.
Oh, right.
Oh, really?
You were doing that. That's the
When I
funniest.
got frustrated and I couldn't
Yeah.
catch someone, it was like I might as well just kick at them.
I could watch this game, two people play this game for hours.
Seriously.
But anyway, yeah, our review is up on GameSpot. Do we have a video component to that?
No,
I don't think
just
so.
some
It's just a
gameplay.
written review. Oscar Deus in the UK wrote a really good review. You can go check that out for more in-depth take on the game. I do actually have a question quick from Twitter, if Tay has it queued up. It's someone was asking about the soundtrack because they really like the soundtrack. Said, is Daedalus doing Nidhogg's OST? And I looked into it, and they are involved with a couple tracks.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but along with Dose One, Mux Mool, and Osborne are some of the other artists. And that was from Cosmic Nomad on Twitter. Eric V, thank you for your question. And he also asked, will Nidhogg 2 have more than 4 stages? Did they update the first game at all, or was it the same?
I don't remember. But yeah, there's like 3 times as many.
I don't think so.
I don't think there's
I
any
think it was
DLC
just the
or
4.
anything.
Yeah.
So who knows? We don't know for sure, but maybe they will add some new maps in the future. As of now, there are 4 with Nidhogg 2 as well.
Is this
Hell
coming?
no, there's like 12 in Nidhogg 2.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, cool. Well, then the answer is yes. Will Nidhogg 2 have more than 4 stages? Eric V. it
Yeah,
already
you
does.
betcha.
Yeah.
Is this coming to the Switch? Because this seems like perfect, right? Like the 2 Joy-Cons.
There was news about them commenting on it yesterday. I thought I don't think there's plans yet, but it would make sense to have it on it.
Right? Yeah.
It'd be great.
Every game.
I know, right?
Most
Please
non-answer
let
ever, but that's
yourself.
what I read. I heard Bloodborne's gonna come to the Switch.
Oh,
too.
cool.
Yeah.
Good.
You didn't. You're a liar.
No, I didn't hear
Will it
that.
run
That'd
more
be
than
dope.
20 frames a second on the Switch?
Ooh.
Speaking of, I don't know. Rob,
burn.
no, good segue. You've been playing Agents of Mayhem,
Ooh.
which is not on the Switch.
The frame rate seemed okay from what I saw.
It's just the frame rate was okay. It's just that the frame constantly shakes.
Well, in that one instance.
Where do you want to begin?
We were the most negative review on the internet, I think.
Okay, let's hold on a second.
So
Let's
this is purely our experience. We're reporting.
calm down quick. And I
Granted,
take-
it wasn't. We did not review.
We didn't
the
actually
game.
write the review,
Right.
but our reviewer aligned with us.
But I agree with it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get us fired up right away. Rob's been playing Agents of Mayhem from the developers of like Saints Row 3 and 4. Volition. They made what looks kind of like Saints Row mixed with Crackdown a little bit. Can you explain the premise to me, Rob? We have a few questions for the game we'll get to later, but set the stage for people who don't know.
The premise is that you are on the Agents of Mayhem and you are trying to save the city of Seoul in Korea, and you're
like evil men hell bent on overtaking there's some acronym like that.
they are trying to just blow up stuff.
It's like
And-
it's
most
G.I.
importantly,
Joe,
yes.
right?
Sure. And I mean, the point, you have like a lineup of agents and you unlock them as you progress, and you get to pick 3 and customize your squad, and they all have these, the very distinct abilities, like, your archer, your weapons expert with a shotgun, and you get to switch them on the fly and cruise an open world and get in cars and wreak havoc. You know, it's like very much as a Saints. Like, it's got that Saints Row feel, but I feel like this in general is like kind of dated. Like Jean-Luc, like you brought it up, and I kind of like agree with like were Saints Row games like. I kind of remember them differently after playing this. Like if I think I only played 3, the third, but like
The
I
one
don't
with
know.
the dildo gun, right?
I think-
or the dildo bat or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I know people like these games, but
I liked them.
Like the humor of this one specifically is actually where I'm kind of getting at. You know, you think of GTA, right, which is like very grounded for the most part, but here it's just like,
unless you're in a plane.
yeah, sure, but here you're just like, you know, it's very tropey. Like just really bad and like juvenile writing with like dumb swear words just thrown in like so aggressively that I've never laughed at any of these. Like they're making Uranus jokes. It feels like not even a 12-year-old would laugh at this.
Yeah, like this made me kind of question if like was Saints Row funny,
Right.
You know, and when I went back and I'm not gonna say those games were like, you know, they hit the nail on the head every time, but there was always more of like an absurdist quality to them, and
They embraced it for sure.
yeah, they embraced it. It never felt like they had all these different characters in it, but they never felt like they were using minorities as like the butt of a joke in that game. You know,
Yeah.
it was actually like weirdly respectful of kind of like its characters and its ideas, and was kind of more making fun of the bizarre situations they were in. This, like from what I was watching, like just like the characters, and they all feel one note,
For sure.
one dimensional.
So they're like
There's no-
caricatures too, right?
yeah, there's no
Stereotypes.
depth to any of this.
I'm an Asian guy, the dragon, like,
Yeah.
shit like
I'm
that.
a Mexican. Like
Right.
it's not appealing, and it feels just like weirdly dated, but not even appropriate. I don't know. So what you saw there also was like your ultimate ability, which every character has. You know, going. It's a trend nowadays, right? Like turn on your ult. That guy just puts on shades. This is Hollywood, by the way. So he's your real, you know, full of himself character who's always pushing buttons and making people like annoyed with how full of himself he is.
Doesn't play by the rules.
Dude,
know the
never. He puts on his shades and that's his ultimate, and all that happens is explosions just appear and blow
Yeah.
up things. So
It sounds cool when you
where's
describe
the
it.
skill involved? You like, you know what I mean? Like if you want,
Let's take a wider view though, because it's like the challenges that you're actually involved in are pretty benign as well, right? So
Yeah.
like the idea that you'd even need these to begin with is like not that compelling.
sure. And by one note also, like not just their characters, like their weapons. Like this, he has his primary assault rifle, and then this grenade that's on a cooldown that he thrusts with his pelvis in a very funny way.
I saw that earlier. I thought he was doing a crotch chop.
But that's about it for most of these characters. I mean, it's just man, if you couldn't swap on the fly, I think the gameplay would be even more boring.
I remember Crackdown 2. I liked the first Crackdown, and it remains to be seen what they're going to do with the third one. But the second Crackdown, when they added that in, kind of what you touched on, Pete, every time I went to do something, it was always the same kind of banal.
Yeah.
Just clear out this zombie infestation, clear out this gang infestation. It didn't have the variety that I liked in the first game, at least when it was kind of like coming in on the early end of the Xbox 360. But yeah, that's from watching you play, Rob. That's what it seems with Agents of Mayhem. It seems like,
Repetitive.
open worlds just
It's
kind of have
extremely-
raised the bar this year in a few different situations from a few different developers. This doesn't look like they have updated stuff.
Well, that brings up a good point of like another gripe that our reviewer also had, which was like, you engage. So you have like a home base called the Ark, which is like this like hover carrier that floats in the sky. So you go back there to, do a variety of things like upgrade all your abilities, get your missions mainly. So you get, your main missions to like find other agents and bring them on board. So there's one where like you start the mission on your helicarrier. It's called the Ark, is your base. You hit a loading screen, you warp back out into the open world, and then you go from A to B, and you get there. And more often than not, it's just a needless like waypoint where you arrive, and a lot of times it's someone on you're like your operator, so to speak. It's just like you arrive at this destination, and he or she says, "Oh, bad intel," and it's just a bunch of guys who you shoot, and he goes, "Go over here now." So then it's a 3-minute drive to this other waypoint, and you arrive there, and then the mission that I was supposed to start finally starts after like 6 minutes, it feels like. And that is in itself repetitive as heck. Where like you're if you're not doing that, you're climbing a building for no reason to get to the top, only to like meet someone, but it's never like justified, right? Like why am I on top of a building now? Oh, now I gotta go down there.
Mondays.
I saw you kill quite a few civilians. When you call your car in, it warps out of nowhere and just
kind of
drives up
funny.
to you.
Yeah.
It's really funny. But I don't know if it fits tonally. Ben Janka is in our YouTube chat. He says that it essentially is a continuation of the Saints Row story because at least 3 of the characters are returning. I don't know which ones.
Okay.
I wouldn't know the lore well enough.
Yeah. What about the technical issues? Because the only time I watched you play, the screen was literally shaking up and down.
And I think that was
Ad
kind of
nauseam.
regular across reviews. There are a lot of other people are
really?
noticing them. Yeah.
A lot of different.
That's like a few of our questions are
like a lot of different terror. Here's the one that I was showing, and the thing was, Peter.
You were talking to me and I couldn't.
That was the thing, because this was like I've seen this so many times, but I was trying to explain to you that like the AI in the streets, like you know, if you think about it, even like GTA, which again, you know, that's a really high bar, so you know, it's understandable that it's hard to match that level of AI, but. In that game, GTA, you cause an explosion, and you know the pedestrians and the AI like freak out, you know, eventually. But here, you just walk into it. You walk into like an intersection, and
This is not
they're
you,
already
Jazz,
freaking
by
out.
the way.
And
This
so
is the
I was
game
trying to explain
freaking
Peter
out.
this, and then he's like, "What's going on? Are you doing this?" I was like, "No, this is me putting the controller down on the desk."
looks like
and the game was doing all this
If
by
you're
itself.
listening, it looks like he's just pressing the left
Yeah.
trigger to aim,
But I'm not.
and then stopping and then aiming. But
I'm
you're
not doing anything. And here's like the robot just like glitching out. Over
Yeah,
the
the
wall.
robot
Like,
does a few bad things. And I saw cars just like inexplicably like
that's what I was alluding
in their
to.
right
yeah.
lane and then being like, I'm going to cross into traffic for no reason and just get into accidents.
And that's by like you again like you. This is the AI operating by itself.
God, it hurts.
This is PS4, right?
This is PS4.
Yeah, the footage you're watching.
And so imagine when I set off an explosion or like block an intersection, then it's just like AI, and the AI is so stiff, and it's just like they rock it up in a car, or like a car like randomly just like rolls. It's like nothing seems like, I don't know, like well put together. Like the AI itself, like there are so like few AI like pedestrians walking around the world. Like you turn a corner and there's like, you know, this is a huge city, and there's like one person in the street, or there's 2 people. I was showing you this, or I think it was Joe. I was showing footage of like AI like having a conversation. Their dialogue is obviously monologues, but they're talking to each other like this. So one's facing this way, one's facing like this way, and then like his hand is going through this guy's head. Yeah. And that's just like time and time after again, you just like see these like bugs, and those are, in my opinion, game breaking. Frame rate is just like chugs like at like a 20. Like if
I've got to say you don't like the game.
Yeah, you've been talking smack about it a lot this
because
week.
I was kind of excited about it.
Yeah. It looked like dumb fun, which we can all use this
Right.
year.
But it has to be done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appropriately.
When I think about Saints Row, like Saints Row probably has some of that stuff too, where, you know, like the AI is not the best in the city and stuff like that, but the game's constantly having you just do like fun, interesting stuff. Like, you know, now you're jumping out of a helicopter into a pool and, you know, killing everyone. Now you're going into a virtual reality world. Now you're stealing this VTOL and doing this. Like they're just constantly throwing new things about you or at you, and wrapping around characters that I felt were like actually like pretty interesting and like compelling characters for the most part. And it feels like this game just like has none of that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, right? Like, there's no like redeeming quality. Like if it was the characters, there's like good writing, but again, like a Uranus joke. Mm-hmm. Was it 1990? Like someone just like, actually it's pronounced Uranus, and it's like, and this is while I'm like climbing a building and getting stuck in a wall, or like my feet don't match. Like you climb to the top of buildings and the geometry doesn't line up, so you're like 5 feet above on like on top of a building. Like almost always, it feels like.
Kind of a good segue into this question from Forsaken Alpha on Twitter. They asked, "Is Agents of Mayhem fun after all the performance issues?" Doesn't sound like the design kind of supports much in this game.
Yeah,
we're running out of things to talk about, and it's just maybe it says something about the game.
Yeah, I would not recommend it. Run this game. Would not recommend this game.
Got one more question. A few people were asking about its lack of co-op. would people expect co-op in this kind of game? I mean, again, Crackdown had it in the first game, I believe, right?
No.
The first Crackdown, didn't they have it? You could play online. I could be mistaken. I'll look that up. But so Muhammad S.0 said, "Do you think Agents of Mayhem would have performed better had it not been single player only?" With the technical issues, I feel like it would have made it worse.
I mean, I don't think Saints Row ever had co-op. Or
Yeah,
anything
that's
like
why I was
that,
wondering
but-
why a few people asked that.
Well, when I first saw this game, when they first announced it, I immediately thought it was co-op because they were showing like, here's all these different characters, each with wacky abilities. You know, they have alts and they, you know, this one's like stealth and this one, you know, does like range. And I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be like a co-op game. You know, you're picking different characters and classes and you're mix and matching. So for it to be this weird, like, no, it's just you by yourself and you're just hot swapping between them. That's not necessarily a bad idea, but that's, yeah, like I totally expected it to be cooperative.
And part of the idea, I think,
so
behind
just to clarify before we talk more about it, co-op is a multiplayer game mode in Saints Row 1, 2, 3, 4, and Get Out of Hell.
So
and
all of them.
Crackdown. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Crackdown. I
Oh,
think
you know,
it's a
yeah,
separate multiplayer
you're totally
mode.
right. There is, yeah, there is.
Yeah,
co-op.
so maybe that's why people were expecting it, because same developer. Like, why not? Maybe. But after seeing the technical issues with the single player, at least on our PS4 experience, who knows that it would have even worked if two people were playing.
Yeah, what I was gonna say though, as far as like the characters, like they make sense in this when you're at your home base and you're looking at your next mission, and it's like kind of gives you some description, like, oh, this is a little more like a stealthy operation. So then you customize and pick your agents for that,
Right.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But
So our review is up for that on GameSpot. You go check that out more in depth. Do we have a video review for that?
We do.
We do.
That's
So
up
you can go
on
watch
YouTube
it on YouTube and see more of the performance issues if you want to check those out. Don't know why you would, but
Maybe you'll like the game. But
yeah, maybe you'll have fun with it. Like I said, it seemed to me like they were going for dumb fun. That doesn't mean they did it right, but you can go see for yourself if you want to check it out in our video reviews and our review on site. I don't know how much we'll have to talk about Matterfall from Housemarque. They just recently released Nex Machina. You might also know them from Resogun fame.
Yes. And Super Stardust.
And Super Stardust. Matterfall came out, 2D action platformer that released. Does that release today?
Came
the
out
15th?
yesterday.
Yesterday, okay.
Because I see my name going down the leaderboards, which means more people are playing.
Oh, okay. That's your excuse.
What the hell?
But you played a little bit of Matterfall. We had a
I did.
freelancer reviewed this. Jeremy Winslow reviewed
We
this.
did, yes. And the game got a 6, which I'd prefer to refer to it as the word that represents, which is a fair game. For me personally, it's somewhere between a fair and a good game because it has so much of what Housemarque does well in it. Although the problem is that it's not necessarily combined in a way that makes you sort of have that moment of like, oh wow, this is rad. Like the way that I got the first time I played Resogun, the way that I got the first time I played Nex Machina. And those games were sort of derived off of Defender and like Smash TV specifically. But I felt like it brought those up in a really interesting way. It's hard to really pinpoint, if anything, what Matterfall is mimicking. But that's not necessarily important. It doesn't have to be an homage or a remake of an idea. But it feels... I don't know. It feels like there's something missing. And first of all, it's a little short. It's only 12 stages, which includes boss battles, which are their own stage. So it's really 9 stages and 3 bosses. But as you sort of go throughout the stages, like you find yourself in rooms with a bunch of enemies, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of enemies here, and I have multiple ways to take them out, but it never quite feels like a clever orchestration of enemies. That's one thing. The biggest problem, though, is the dash ability. So dashing is something that Housemarque uses in pretty much all of their games, and it's a very important way of not only getting out of danger, but sometimes inflicting damage or or a debuff on your enemy. And in most of their games, as far as I can recall, it's very easy to know when you can dash and when you can't, because it's usually on a cooldown timer and there's some sort of visual or audible indicator. There is nothing like that here. And so these stages that you're watching me play, they're not that difficult, but there are some, especially once you get outside of the first main area, the first batch of levels, where you need to be able to escape at a moment's notice. But even if you're not in that moment-to-moment thing and you just want to be able to use your dash freely, you don't know if you can. And this thing that's supposed to be a reliable get-out-of-jail-free card, you can't really rely on it. And that's a real misstep, because you basically feel like, well, I have all these tools at my disposal, but the most important one, I can't count on it every time I need to. And that's a real problem. That definitely hurts the experience of playing this game.
Yeah, my initial reaction when I first saw gameplay was, oh, that's awesome. Housemarque is doing a Metroidvania kind of game. It looked like, maybe it's because it just looked like Shadow Complex, or just because I'm ignorant and it looked like a 2D
I think it's that
side-scrolling.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's well, we have fun with each
Was
other.
Mega Man a comparison that was made, or no?
I mean, you could kind of look at it that
To be
way.
reductive.
So the game is linear, but there are sort of like short alternate paths you can find. It's not even alternate, just like diversions. And there you might find citizens, and these citizens might give you health or an augment. And these augments are things like a grenade or a buff for like your dash ability or other stuff. And you can replay levels with these things because you're chasing high scores, right? That's what Housemarque games are all about. So it's like Mega Man in the sense that you get new abilities you can customize yourself with, but you're not really getting them from bosses and like,
Yeah.
there's not like a key weapon to take out a certain boss. Now maybe your strategy will change depending on how you get these augments and you'll go back, but you're playing the same levels over again. And again, the levels themselves aren't that interesting. There's nothing, I can't remember a single level I was like, this moment was cool.
Housemarque has always been awesome about replayability. Like, you don't really beat their game, especially when Resogun was on the PS4 launch lineup. Next Machina, same thing. I just wanted to keep playing that just purely
crank
for
up the
its
difficulty and
frenetic energy. Yeah, and its difficulty, and you start getting better at it. You get the muscle memory, the twitch reactions.
Yeah, and that's all fine here. It just it doesn't. I felt this game less surprising than I hoped it would be, and easier to walk away from than I expected.
Damn. Well, you can go look more into this. I mean, do you guys have any questions about it?
How's the
Rob,
music?
Jean-Luc?
Music is great.
Oh, yeah, the music was
Music
good
is
for
really
those
good.
games.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. The music is, I mean, that's one of those things that really drives the action,
Right.
you know?
I mean, was it like comparable to like Next Machina?
Yeah. Same vein.
Great.
That's all.
I'll be sure to listen to it on Spotify.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen what you
Right.
listen to on Spotify.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. We are, yeah, you can go read that review as well. Jeremy Winslow, one of our freelancers, wrote that. Like Pete said, he gave it a 6 out of 10, which means it's fair.
It is fair.
That's a very fair assessment of a fair game.
Yes.
You can go check that out on GameSpot. All right, Tay, I'm going to switch things up on you. Sorry. Because it seems like we have more to talk about with Observer than I thought when I made this run of show. So I need to ask you guys for some help. I don't want to just be talking this whole segment, so I need you guys to ask me a question about XCOM 2's War of the Chosen expansion, which I've spent like all week playing. And by all week, I mean, I think it's like 60 hours.
All right, so I'll pretend to be like someone who knows XCOM,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to ask you questions. What I want you to do is the things that you want to talk about. I want you to say, you know that thing, like something they've improved, and be like, oh yeah, what's different? And then you'll tell me what's different and what's so good.
What? So should I talk with like
it.
insider baseball XCOM terms for people
Yeah.
who would actually be watching this video?
Yeah, because I don't care about XCOM, so for anyone like me,
Interesting.
this might not matter.
Okay.
So I want to know as an expert, like a fellow expert.
Okay. What do you want to know? You said you'd ask a question.
So what's new, man? Like what are no, I said I'm not asking.
There's a lot of new things. So it's not just DLC. It's like Enemy Within, XCOM, 2012's XCOM Enemy Unknown. Its expansion that released a couple of years after actually revamped how a few of the systems work. Chief among them, you see the Assassin here. That's one of the chosen. There's 3 persistent bosses that you'll fight throughout levels. And if you had played the Alien Hunters DLC,
I love that.
it's different than that because those you start chipping away at their health and then they escape. And next time they come back, they are still at the health you left them at. So you continually chip away at them, get their armor, get their weapons. You get weapons to hunt them with. But in this, they're actually persistent bosses. So I beat the Assassin here, and this was early on in my playtime. I was also trying to make the gameplay look good, so I made a few dumb decisions, which you might see.
I didn't want to say
That's an
anything.
amazing excuse.
I screwed up the Assassin later on. I messed her up. I gave her a wallop. Here's my Templar. There's a few new units. We'll get into that. But you see the Assassin talking you up. She remembers your actions. She starts to learn from you. If you
Right.
wait, you have man, there's a ton to talk about. In the strategy layer of the game, for the XCOM layperson, there's a strategy layer where you're building a base and researching technologies and recruiting troops and just doing all the big picture stuff. And then this is the actual tactical turn-based combat right here where you bring your units in. At this point, I have a 6-person squad, including the robot, 3 of the new units, a specialist, medic, and a ranger. But
Standard.
yeah. And the Chosen, the longer you wait to do the covert missions, which also take place in the strategy layer, to find their strongholds, the stronger they'll get. So you can go in earlier with a weaker squad with less powerful weapons, less powerful armor, not as many abilities that can kind of get you out of a tight spot. And you can go in and try to fight them when they're also weaker. Or you could wait until your team is just dope as shit like mine is. I don't know that I necessarily avoided swearing there when I tried to.
Channeled Michael Hine.
Yeah. So I should have gone into overdrive right here with my Spark.
Yeah, you should have.
People called it out in the YouTube comments on the gameplay. Me. Yeah. You were all 20 people.
Yeah, why not?
So
I gotta give you shit.
So that's actually, it takes Jake Solomon, the creative director. We had him on the lobby stage actually at E3, and he was saying they love what Shadow of Mordor did, and they love what Shadow of War seems to be doing, and they wanted to take that persistent boss kind of nemesis system where they learn from your actions and your habits, and they're harder to fight later on, and they remember it. They'll say like, "Oh, remember she killed one of my favorite soldiers," and she mentioned it later.
I remember that.
Got me. But anyway, those are the chosen, the 3 big bosses. You kill them, you get their weapons, much like you might expect. 3 new units. This is the Reaper that I just moved. The stealth kind of glass cannon. They have a chance to stay in stealth when they shoot. There's the Templar, which is the psionic one with kind of the Psylocke blades, if you're an X-Men fan. And then there's the Skirmisher, which is kind of just a battle tank, which can do a lot of stuff. But there are some bigger aspects, which you kind of can see in this gameplay we're watching.
Did you just throw a grenade?
It was a flashbang. It disorients them.
And she's in the ship, or he or she?
It was a flashbang. Yes, she was in the ship, and I was trying to disorient her so she would have a harder time attacking my... And also, if you know XCOM, you'll notice that she is not triggering Overwatch when she runs up to people. So you go into Overwatch right there, and that essentially means if an enemy moves within their line of sight, even if it's not your turn, you're going to fire at them. But she ignores Overwatch, as you can see, which makes it tough to fight her because she's more of a guerrilla kind of get in, get out kind of person. But there are also soldier bonds happening here. In the strategy layer, you have these soldiers develop bonds, and they can
make out on the battlefield?
Yes, they can give each other extra actions. They can give each other a nice kiss on the cheek before they go into a firefight.
You serious?
No. They'll like heal each other. They can revive each other easier. You can give each other an extra action. You can do later on when they get to a certain bond level, you can do a dual strike where they both attack someone as one attack, which is huge. And that's awesome. And you see I'm fighting the Lost here, these zombies. I'm ranting. There's just a lot to talk about with this game. It's broad strokes. It changes XCOM 2 in several different ways. I was kind of annoyed by the zombies at first, but then you start to realize how to avoid fighting them. And I got you start managing your resistance relationships, and that's kind of like city states if you play civilization games a lot. You're managing kind of your rapport with these factions, and that factors into abilities you're unlocking and soldiers you're unlocking and different missions you get. To be upfront, we're not supposed to be talking about like our full-on opinion yet because the review will be up on the 24th.
I don't have anyone to review this yet.
It'll be up on the 24th. I would. That's the embargo, so at least I can talk about it on the 24th. But right now, this was all just preview. Man.
Is this worth pulling up my save and doing like an Iron Man run or something?
You can't. No, you'd have to start a new game, I would imagine.
Wow.
So that's my question. I never played XCOM 2. Should I get this expansion?
Yes.
And is it too much? Because you
No.
say they adds a lot. Like, would I feel overwhelmed with like mechanics, or do they explain it all in a way where a new player would feel okay?
Yes, they explain it. There's a couple. So XCOM, like when they introduce new things, you go on this mission, they'll kind of explain a new mechanic, but not too overtly. They'll let you figure out how to use it. But the overall pacing of XCOM 2 is like 10 times better now. There's usually a couple hours at the beginning if you played a bunch of campaigns where you're like, oh, I'm just going to research this. I know that's going to help me. I'm going to research this. That's going to help me. And it's kind of like Civilization. You go down the same research tree and whatnot, and you do the same missions. And this, right away, you start getting connected with these resistance factions. And it helps the pacing because the expansion also revamped how a lot of old mission types worked. So if you were doing a retaliation mission, for instance, to stop their dark project progressing, you would go in and have to rescue a bunch of civilians while also killing the aliens. In this one, there's actual resistance members that kind of fight with you, and you're actually saving them one squad at a time. There's just more layers to each of the mission types, and they also added a few new mission types, such as ambushes. You can get ambushed when you're on a covert action, so instead of fighting, you'll actually just literally try to sprint away. I didn't fire a shot the whole time last time I got ambushed. This is a soldier bond right here. He just revived him. Yeah. Put his hand on his head. Yes. If you haven't played XCOM 2, now's the time. Get into it. Same day as Mario plus Rabbids, but the expansion, it doesn't just add things like new units and new research options and new weapons, missions. It makes the pacing of the game, I think, from my time with it now, the 60 hours I've put into it, it makes the time like that much better.
That was all really good, but it wasn't the format we agreed upon.
you have any other questions? As a longtime XCOM player,
That's not how it's supposed to work.
what? Yeah, I know.
Watch it back. We'll figure it out.
No. Any other questions?
Do you know if they're selling it? How much does it cost? Do you know how much it costs?
40, I believe. They just announced today they're pushing the PS4, Xbox One versions back to September 12th because of performance issues. They're gonna make sure that it works.
I guess I'm wondering, like, since I don't own XCOM 2, like, could I buy it, like, bundled together?
Yeah.
For, like,
So with Enemy Within, it would probably just be $60, I imagine, if you're getting the whole
like
thing.
the full thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Let me double check that actually.
How long is it supposed to take? I've heard this is pretty big, right?
Yeah. So
40 hours?
I mean, XCOM, beating one campaign can take anywhere from like 25 hours to like 50. But half the fun of this game is just starting over sometimes and failing. This is the first campaign since I reviewed the game that I haven't played on Iron Man, which means you can just reload saves and whatnot. Yeah. But it is reinventing the game very broadly, very thoroughly, but also like on a minute scale as well. I'm looking up the price, trying to find it quick because I actually don't know. We got fortunately sent a code by 2K to play it. When are you guys gonna play this game? $40.
I've tried to play XCOM and I just don't like it.
No,
I don't think it's bad at all. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I think you guys should play it.
I'd like to.
Yeah,
Mario and Rabbids comes out the same day though.
It's it's everything I like love about modern video games. It's this emergent characterization. When I lose a
wait. Are we gonna dive into why you like XCOM 2 right now?
No,
because that's a huge waste of time.
Okay. With War of the Chosen, this expansion, it makes it even more what I love about modern games. This emergent characterization. When you lose someone like this, it's just even that more painful. Now you have these super powered units and these 3 new factions, and it's even more painful to lose them. I lost one of my skirmishers, and it felt like I lost an entire squad.
Damn.
The Nemesis kind of inspired system makes the campaign mean a lot more, and it's personal. You kind of have beef with some of these guys and some of that assassin girl, and it can be frustrating, but the payoff feels good. Anyway, but I can tell you,
Is this the first game to actually like use the Nemesis system
outside of Shadow of Mordor?
Outside of Shadow of Mordor. Because I remember like when that came out, everyone's like, "Oh, just wait, guys.
Yeah,
a couple years,
it didn't
everyone's
seem to
gonna steal from this," and like no one did.
I mean, like, to go farther back than Shadow of Mordor, Far Cry 2 did that with your allies, a vanilla version of it. You kind of had those allies that started coming in to save you sometimes, and you build relationships with them.
That was a very
kind of look to Hello Neighbor. It's got adaptive
basic.
AI.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's slightly different, but it's the same principle.
That's like a match-to-match basis, right?
Yeah.
Then State of Decay did it with your allies as well, but Nemesis, I don't think so. And that's surprising. Like in 2014, everybody's like, this is the next big thing. And that's what a bunch of developers, we did a bunch of like behind the scenes kind of feature documentaries recently with, people who started immersive sims like Warren Spector, Richard Garriott, and the people who are still making them. Raf Colantonio just left Arcane, but when they were working on Prey, we talked to them, and they were saying that was one thing they constantly looked to was Shadow of Mordor. And I am also surprised that War of the Chosen seems to be the first thing touching on it.
Like a Nemesis style system in a game like Prey would actually be like really cool.
It would make sense. It would make it even more of an immersive sim. So I don't know. Hopefully more people do catch on. In a couple of weeks, Reboot is literally going to be about more games.
Well, not anymore. I mean, you pretty much did a Reboot episode right now.
On XCOM?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You pretty much did a review. I don't know why I did the game.
Yeah. No, I don't know. You should go check this out when it comes out. Maybe we'll have our full review up at Embargo on the 24th.
Depends on how fast you can write it.
Yeah.
Ooh, challenge.
Cool. XCOM 2, We're the Chosen. Best game ever made. Here we go. Observer. Cyberpunk. Blade Runner fans here?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Blade Runner. Have you seen it, Pete? Blade Runner.
Yes.
Luke Skywalker. Observer came out from Bloober Studio, which is delightful to say.
Yep.
I checked out this morning, but Rob, you played until 2 yesterday. Pete, after you saw, we had a pretty glowing freelance review come in.
Yeah.
2 a.m. to clarify.
2 a.m.
That's how late he stayed up. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stayed up
Yes. This is a game that was sort of coming, and I saw, and I was like, this looks very interesting. But I didn't actually realize it was done by the people who made Layers of Fear. That kind of would have changed my anticipation a bit. And then we got the text in from the freelancer, and I was like, this sounds like something pretty crazy. So I had to sit down and play it. And it's got some problems, but it's by and large a very immersive cyberpunk detective story that isn't necessarily too ambitious, but it's pretty good at the things that it does. It's got some fluff that I don't necessarily love, but really just the atmosphere and the tone that it delivers and conveys is super strong and successful.
Yeah, I was asking you how the gameplay actually functions. I was like, is it a walking sim? Is it kind of just this narrative immersive?
Part that, yeah. I mean, you spend a lot of your time investigating this apartment building in the slums of a dystopia where people have accepted, technology into their life wholesale. Because of that, some things have gone wrong, like they've lost their humanity, for instance. But anyone with augments is also pretty much fallen victim to, I think it's called like neophage or something like that. Like basically a sickness that infects people with augmentations. Like, oh, this is your punishment for losing your humanity.
I believe it's when like nanites go like out of whack. Like
sure.
And there's I think for the most part, like all or most people in the world are in this time have augments.
Right.
Have like
it's pretty common.
Like they've said it as far as like in the future, like people are expecting like, we're already making hearts, right? Like everyone can just like go into a garage, like a car shop and just like get a new muffler or like whatever it is. Right. And that's kind of the case for so many people. So it's super mysterious. Like everyone just seems freaking out of their...
Just weird.
Just weird. I mean, it's like, the effect of what's been going on like has taken a toll on like psychosis and like just like people in general. Like,
yeah, you don't get like a lot of really in-depth examination of characters, but that's kind of one of the game's strengths is how much it can convey through very minimal interactions. So this guy, you run into him a few times, and he's kind of like slow, and you feel like dim-witted. I think it's like the second scene when you interact with him, he sort of discusses why he has the augments he has, like why he is the way he is, and it's because I believe he was like caught in like a war zone and had to do some stuff. So it's like, yeah, he's kind of a weirdo. And at first you're like, screw this guy. But then you're like, oh man, I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
This is what you're left with. But so when you're not walking around, you're doing a lot of this. You're examining items, trying to find evidence to, deduce clues and solve. There's one big crime you're trying to solve, but you sort of solve little steps along the way. And so when you're not looking through apartment buildings and stuff like that, you are talking to people in the apartments, but through these sort of like video terminals at their door.
Right.
And all you're really given, it's sort of like a peephole in that you don't see their face, you see like their eye. And it's this really like glitchy kind of image. Everyone's eye looks different.
Or it's like a different part of their face, or like sometimes they'll like, it looks like they'll cover it up.
Okay.
Their butt.
Sure, their butt. That's a face.
Can I ask you a question?
Do you have any banaka?
And so, yeah, I mean, the immersion of this game is what made me play for 4 hours straight, and I wanted to keep going. Peter and I, so what you're seeing here too is like you have, as you are investigating, you have kind of like two different types of, discovery of items.
Right?
Yeah, so there's like an electromagnetic pulse, and then there's your like bio, right? And that's how you find different clues. And you pick up objects. Rotate them and get like bits of clues, obviously, that you remember, or like a lot of times I wanted to like pull out a notebook and like remember certain things.
Yeah.
But one of the most interesting things that it's funny because we were just kind of talking about Tacoma just not too long ago about that like satisfaction, because that is very much again like an investigative type of game. Like here, the idea of like you can pick up an object and like put it back or like close a cabinet again. I feel like this here was like one of the best VR games that wasn't VR for me, in how you open up different like drawers and cabinets is you like hold down the trigger,
kinetic.
Yeah, and then you're using the stick
or your mouse if you're playing a PC to like
or I guess your mouse,
push your hand forward as though you're opening the door.
Right, and it is so fluid, and like just that alone, like it's like very VR. Like I can't even imagine what this game would be like in VR. It'd be really surreal. But that alone, and I would hope that is something they would consider down the road, but that alone really helped that immersion of just like, I just was obsessed. And again, like the environments are gorgeous. Every room, you walk into any corner in the room and like look around, and it's just a crazy looking spectacle.
But it gets far crazier. So one of the deals. So we should say the main character is voiced and personified by Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
Of Blade Runner fame, obviously, and we can get to his performance in a minute. But one of the things his character can do is read people's memories, and this can be someone who is alive still or not alive, as it were. And he does this by sort of like jacking into, he takes his cable like out of his wrist and jacks it into their neck. And when you're examining memories, I mean, none of us have memories that are perfect, that have every detail, that have all this stuff laid out in sequence as it should be. Our memories are fractured and broken and distorted in some ways. And that's really what you experience when you get into these memories. This isn't footage of it here.
I didn't put it. I cut all this stuff.
We don't have footage of that ready for this?
I was gonna hold off because I feel like that's kind of spoilery.
Yeah. But it's so okay. Well,
that's cool though. I like that
we can't show it. Go to the review because on the review page I have a clip. That was
the
one
you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not because this was a game where like as I was like assembling just a real quick rushed gameplay highlight, I like really wanted to avoid stuff because having it like happen was, man, like those jack-ins to people's minds are like the set pieces.
So these memories that I described as broken and fractured and weird, as you're exploring them, the experience is very surreal. I mean, the game is already a bit spooky. It takes on very much a horror vibe.
Like, look at this room.
You start to lose sense of space and self in these memory sequences, and it's trying to tell a story both of. I haven't beaten the game yet. It's telling the story of the character you're jacked into, but I think even part of Rutger Hauer's character seeps in a little bit. So it's just really interesting, like. There's always this tug of war between the abilities you have and the job it affords you and the access it affords you to information, but then how that also has a negative impact on yourself and the job you're trying to perform. It's super interesting in that regard. But yeah, like if there are any faults, I'd say Rutger Hauer does a pretty sleepy performance.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it
so
in
did
that
our reviewer, but
I liked it in that it felt very like trope-like. Like in that like I'm just like almost like over exaggerated as far as like raspiness and just like not super exaggerated, well, emotional, right? Like it's very
droll.
like like I enjoy listening to it.
But like one of the early scenes, and this is not a spoiler, one of the early scenes is he gets like a call from like a relative that he thought, a very important relative to him that he thought was gone. He hadn't heard from in a while, and his reaction is just like, "Oh, it's you? Oh." Like, if I had a loved one that was missing for a decade and they reached out to me, it would be like, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? There'd be some emotion behind it. He is just that constant stagnation. Am I missing something?
Well, I mean, this isn't, I don't think, a spoiler. In the beginning of the game, you notice that he has a stray robotic arm. And this is his like psychosis, I think, plays into a lot of the themes of this game, where it's like,
but at what point?
At what point are these people humans?
Yes.
And like when like time, like I don't know. There's so many characters that like where like you'll see like I feel like outbursts of like a cry for help or something like that. It's like super interesting. Like there are some characters, like it seems really boring to knock on these doors and get like 4 images of like an eye just like flash in your face. But the writing, I think, of these the residents, again, you don't really interact with them like visually, like you just hear them. I feel like there were moments in this game where like I walked away, I was like, damn, that was only maybe a minute long, but like it took me like
it was rich.
It was rich, and it like really impacted me. Where I was like, that.
The voice acting in those is really good.
Really good.
Which is why I think I don't like Rutger Hauer so much, and maybe why I don't buy the theory that it's a conscious decision on his part. He sounds like a tired actor to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You have to play it for yourself. It fits the tone in many scenes, but there are some where I'm left thinking like, really, like that's how you're going to play this out?
The thing you're saying about the fractured memories kind of is what entices me. I'm sold on it right now. I only played like half an hour, but I kind of get what they're going for aside from I haven't seen much of like the horror angle yet. But I'm curious to see if they expound upon that shattered memory and maybe kind of use that to maybe make it an accidental unreliable narrator in a way. Like nobody's a reliable narrator of their memories. Right. So hopefully
kind of what I was alluding to. Yeah, I haven't finished it. I think we're around the same, probably halfway. I'd say this is about an 8, maybe 9 hour game. If you really like,
I've heard 4 to 5. I've heard 12. I don't know.
You have like you open up your more like your detective screen, and you have like sub quests basically along with like you can kind of like
they're all pretty simple. It's just a matter of being thorough.
Right.
Yeah.
But going back to like I think you're on point. Like who Kruger is as a character. What's actually your character's name?
Daniel Lazarski.
Thank you.
Lazarski.
Who you are and what you're interpreting is like jaded. That's what I would say. Like about halfway through is like you just and I feel like that's apparent in the beginning as well. But as far as like the horror stuff, I'm one like like PT. I got a lot of vibes from PT, right?
Yeah.
Like
I felt very similar.
yeah,
playing
in a
this,
very
yeah.
great way, where it was
Yeah.
just like an environment and mood swings of like I feel uneasy.
Yeah, like the idea of walking through PT and seeing different variations of that one scene. That's not really what you do in this game, but it has that same effect because these memories, they jump around very quickly. And so 1 minute you're in a room and the next you're staring down like vast black space with the most dimly lit path and some fog. And it evokes that sense of like, this looks so benign, but I know there's something horrible that is like lurking here.
People compared it to Soma as well.
I haven't played Soma.
So I haven't played Soma, but I looked at footage, and I've seen footage of it, and I would say it's very similar to that, as far as like it is a walking sim, but it's again so immersive. Where like I don't know, there's something about like I know I'm not going to get killed like in the as much as I played, like there is no moment, and well, I guess we can talk about the cat and mouse aspect. That was kind of a complaint.
So I haven't gotten to that.
I haven't gotten to that yet. I feel like in that like I'm never like consistently
Cat and mouse aspect?
Yeah, like you're just being like hunted by something, I assume. I haven't played it myself.
like Resident Evil, the last Resident Evil.
That's
like,
very
had,
much like Soma.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I saw too. Is like you're constantly hiding away.
Outlast.
Like you're never like so uneasy. And I feel like that's why I could play for so long. Because like a lot of like I feel like the audience. I mean, unless you're obsessed with horror games, you could play those games for long periods of times. But there's something about like the exhaustion you get with like jump scares and such.
Yeah, this is more just disturbing.
It's just disturbing.
Yeah.
It's a good disturbing. But you're never like super. I mean, there are some moments that are really scary, but you're never like super uneased to like I can't continue this anymore. So,
No, yeah.
But yet, I just still found myself like closing doors behind me, like there's the audio work, and you gotta play with headphones, by the way, like 100%. The visuals alone, like just like the lighting and like all the.
It's just one of the random things I want to bring up that's kind of touching on the last few things you mentioned. Is in those memories, there's like mazes you have to go through, and you have to find the right path. But if you fail, the rooms like seamlessly become the beginning of the path again. Mm-hmm. And do you remember that? Do you remember how you got through it? It takes like really interesting environmental awareness.
Yeah.
The moment you realize it, you're like, oh, and it opens up this like sort of meta puzzle thing on top of the maze that you're in, which is pretty neat. It's hard to explain.
It's a tough game to describe
without
in
spoiling
general,
anything.
but
Yeah.
I would say
a
check
tough
it out
game.
if you want to. I mean, if you're a fan of Cyberpunk, I think people are like saying it uses the Cyberpunk kind of Blade Runner-ish aspects well in terms of like the questions it raises and the characterization.
Technology
and
replaces
everything.
humanity. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, and but anyway, our review is up.
Yes, and we're going to do a video review because
Cool.
people are very interested in this game. So
Yeah, kind of. This year is full of games that kind of came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of people. This is one of them, like Night in the Woods, along like the narrative track, kind of comes to mind as well. We're hoping for it with Rhyme, but I don't think it really hit the mark. But anyway, you can go see more about Observer. We'll have our video review up soonish, maybe tomorrow-ish. We're gonna aim for.
Oh, I will say, I didn't get to touch on it that much, but I played on PS4. You played on PC. I had initially a real bad time with like the sensitivity of like the controller, where like at its like default setting, like you're zipping around, like there's not much of like a nice acceleration factor. So it was, if you're gonna play PS4, turn the sensitivity all the way down and it's bearable. Mm-hmm. But there were like pretty significant frame rate drops.
Yeah, you saw that in the footage when they walked into our room. It was kind of stuttery.
I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker for PS4, but like it was pretty jarring sometimes. I don't know if you had a similar experience with PC.
No, PC ran pretty good. Yeah.
Just want to say that.
We could talk about Sonic Mania.
Let's talk about Sonic Mania.
Sonic!
It's the second game that got a 9 out of 10 this week. Mines are rare.
What was the first?
Observer.
Oh, check that out. Sonic Mania. I said this at the beginning of the show, I've never beaten a Sonic game before. I've never gone past like 2 zones of a Sonic game. This one's supposedly good. You were playing on your Switch today.
I was trying to prepare for the show because I haven't had as much time to play.
They're pretty like slow-paced games, right?
Well, that's if you're not good. Old Sonic maybe isn't the easiest to go back to. Like it's got some really great charms to it, and there are moments when it's fast. But what Sonic Mania does really well is it takes sort of that old formula and opens it up in a more creative and speedy way, I think.
Yeah.
There's more surprises moment to moment. And especially if you're very familiar with the old Sonic games, the way that it sort of slips in these little added flourishes is really rewarding. Just little animations here or there, like just even that alone is. Just
I agree.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
I want to play my Switch. I played Sonic on my Game Gear back in the day.
Yeah.
The AA batteries cost more.
Ben
than
was
the
saying
game,
how
so.
that gave him that same feelings, that he was playing it on his Switch and it reminded him of how his first Sonic game was on a Game Gear.
Oh, really? Yeah. Most of my Sega games when I was young were on a Game Gear. Feel like you're gonna be mad at that for some reason.
Why?
I don't know, because it's an old platform. You're just gonna chastise me.
What are you talking about?
No. I feel like you're gonna say, well, the Genesis was. Weren't there just a lot of Genesis games on the Game Gear that I could have been playing on the Genesis instead? You're a
Yes.
Genesis kid. That's why I'm saying that.
Yes.
Yeah. But Jean-Luc, you know a lot about Sonic after a recent
I'm
research
the
rabbit hole.
I'm the expert now.
Yeah.
50-minute history of you did intensive.
The feature
I played
film.
every Sonic game, so I can
Select
definitively
feeders.
say I really like this one a lot.
Does it? So Pete kind of started touching on it. What does it do to evolve the games, or is it good because it goes back to its roots?
Well, I mean, yeah, like I agree that the older games don't necessarily, especially like the first one doesn't hold up as well. Like everyone thinks like Green Hill Zone from that original Sonic, but the second you get to like the second stage, it instantly starts slowing down and just has all these barriers that where the game wants you to go fast and it prevents you from going fast because like you have to do really slow ass platforming, or you have to enemies just start coming out of nowhere and hitting you.
You just know the layouts extremely well.
Yeah. So like a lot of it's funny. A lot of Sonic fans will say like their argument for why those old games are good is like, well, no, you got to play it like 10 times and you got to like know the layout perfectly and then it's fun. And I'm like that's a weak argument, right? But I think like by Sonic 3 they started to kind of figure out like we need to have every area kind of have these
Like a plan B, right?
Yeah, like a plan B, faster lanes, multiple options. You know, like something that Sonic has like more of a leeway with it than Mario, where the ring system, because you can get hit, it kind of knows that sometimes it can be like a little bullshit, so it gives you that leeway, and then when you do get hit or you fall off, like in a pit or something, you don't die. You just go to an alternate lane that's maybe not
As fun?
quite as fun or doesn't have, you know, like an
rewarding.
extra like one up or something,
Right.
you know, like that you could get. Like there's a reason they definitely reward you for being able to get to those like, you know, more complex lanes and stuff like that. And I think this game just like really understands that and nails that idea. There was one zone I got stuck on because of the boss. So I ended up doing that zone like multiple times, but I started just like trying alternate paths, and I was shocked like how many times I kept seeing areas that I had never been in before. Like it's fun to go look at old Sonic games where people will like take the zone layout and like zoom it out and you can see the paths. I really want to see what they look like for this one because I
There's, like,
imagine
alternate
it's
ones
just
now, right?
There's so many.
Huge.
Well, there were alternate ones before,
Yeah.
but now it's like
It
there's
feels
alternates and they're really complex.
Yeah, it feels massive. Like there were times where I was like, oh, I have not redone a second part of this, you know, act once. You know, it's pretty great.
This was a game that I think the first Switch game I would say I'm playing on that I really wanted a D-pad. I felt like
So I actually don't mind the
analog stick. I kept
no, not the analog stick.
I mean,
The
there's a D-pad, but it's not the traditional
D-pad
D-pad. It's
buttons?
directional buttons.
well,
yeah.
the roll you have with the D-pad, like I don't know, like at the rate of which you know the speed you're going, like I feel like I was taking a while. I don't know, it wasn't comfortable for me. I guess.
Like a Studiopolis zone in
Yeah.
this game. What does that mean? Studio, like
Studiopolis. It's like
Hollywood
it's
studio?
a TV studio. It's a
Okay.
TV station. So they have like cool, like it very much feels like a game aesthetically that's like trying to be the 90s, where it's like you have like a TV studio. There's a newspaper printing press that you're like running through.
yeah.
You know, like it. But what's cool about it is that they're clearly doing stuff that couldn't have been done on the original Genesis hardware. Like it's trying to emulate that aesthetic, but it's like, okay, these levels, there's no way these levels would be able to be as big as they could have been on the Genesis. They couldn't have had this many frames of animation, you know, because of like the memory limit. They
Right.
couldn't have possibly had like there's more color in this. Like they're emulating that style, but they're taking advantage of the current hardware.
Yeah, but
Adapting
still
it.
working within, I think, like there's the idea of like how we remember these old games versus how they actually were.
Right,
I feel
exactly.
like this suits how we remember those games, even if they actually never were this way.
Right,
The
right.
rose-colored glasses or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so like big things that I think just instantly make this game better alone is the widescreen. You know, like a huge thing about Sonic is one of the reasons you kept getting hit by enemies that you're like, well, that was bullshit, is because you wouldn't see them in time because you were so limited, and they put Sonic in the center, so you have like 8 frames to maybe like see an enemy and then dodge it, and the reaction time is just, you know, practically impossible unless you know ahead of time they're there, which is why people always say like, oh, you got to play it 10 times. This, you have much more like leeway in like being able to predict, and it still like takes some skill to do sometimes, but you're able to actually do it, and they like place enemies a lot smarter, so you're able to do that stuff.
I've always sucked at Sonic games. Maybe this one.
That's how I feel when I was playing it. But I'm not like afraid of like my inexperience with like movement and stuff. Like I feel like I'm ramping up because there's this drive to like, you know, go fast, like just hit these like roller coasters. It's like a total pinball feel. I love it.
And there's just so many little things like moment to moment in every level. Or it's like, I've never seen that enemy before. I've never seen this little gimmick before. Like, what is all this cool little shit? Like, yeah, it's like even if you're failing, you're like, I kind of want to see what else this game's gonna do because it's pretty far out. It's apparently also packed with a lot of really subtle references to Sega's past.
Yes.
We've got a gallery going live later today, which normally I don't worry too much about our galleries or care to pimp them, but Heidi Kemp's one of our freelancers, did a really good job. Her knowledge of Sega is pretty deep. There's some things in there that Matt Espinelli was like, what? I totally missed that. And it's
Easter
not
eggs and stuff.
Easter eggs that are, I'll spoil one. So in the competition mode, there's like an announcer. The announcer's voice is the guy who did the famous Daytona USA song.
Whoa, really?
See? Yeah. And
I didn't know that.
You might not have noticed that. And there's also like a blimp at one point that goes by that says like SS Hornet. The Hornet is the name of the car from Daytona USA. Oh. So maybe there is some deep Daytona USA lore that is invading Sonic and taking root. But there's
a new one coming out soon.
I think they are doing Daytona. They at an arcade expo they showed off a new Daytona. Oh. So you're sort of, but there's a lot of stuff, even to obscure like a Sonic the Hedgehog popcorn machine that I think only appeared in Japan.
I remember that one. They make references to like Club Sega in the background and
a lot of things from Sonic games that were in magazines that weren't actually in the final versions of Sonic 1 through 3 are in this game as well, which is pretty cool for fans who are like, that legendary thing that never happened.
Cool.
And this feels like this only could have happened because this was made by fans of Sonic.
Absolutely. The people who made their own fan games, and Christian Whitehead, who is a guy at a studio. I don't really know him or the studio, but he's been involved in a lot of ports of old games. So it's his know-how plus the obvious knowledge and passion from the fans.
Yeah, he ported the Sonic CD on the mobile.
Yeah.
And,
right.
Then that version's also on Steam, and it's like definitely like the version to play. It runs on his own custom engine that he built, which I think is maybe the same engine they're using for this. So like it's widescreen, runs like 60 frames a second. Then they also did 1 and 2 as well. Although those versions are not on Steam, you can only play them on mobile, which kind of sucks.
They're not in that like weird Genesis Ultimate thing where you can download.
Those are the original emulated.
No,
versions.
yeah. I was gonna say yeah.
But that's a bummer because a lot of fans consider those to be like the best versions of those games because like, you know, they run at a solid 60 frames a second where, you know, you play that emulated Genesis one, it's still emulating Genesis hardware. So you get those weird hiccups, you know, just by trying to emulate, you know, that stuff that these ones don't have and just feels like a much smoother experience now. It's really good.
Has anyone tried, there's co-op in this, right?
It's like a competitive mode.
But you can also play, like the other person can control Tails, for example, even if Tails doesn't really make a huge meaningful difference in the grand scheme of a game. But yes, yeah.
He saved my ass a few times.
Been through the shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm on Chemical Factory.
Chemical plant.
Chemical plant.
They make chemicals.
That chemical is tough.
Oh, yeah. Infamous.
It's tough stuff. Yeah. I haven't figured it out yet. I was like, also, this was after my 2 a.m. binge of Overseer. I was like,
I played Sonic last night after Observer.
Sonic
what are you doing?
I need a little bit of a cool down. And it was like,
gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. There, this is a good nightcap.
Wait, you just did that with another recent game, didn't you? Some fast-paced, crazy game. What was it? No, it's probably just Breath of the Wild or something. You probably tried doing like Master Mode or something.
Shut your mouth. Oh, I know. Yeah, you're right. It was Master Mode Trial of the Sword.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Man, I don't think I'll ever beat that on Master Mode. It is mind-boggling.
Won't stop you trying. So, yeah, we all agree.
Anyways.
They've made Sonic good, not just for nostalgia's sake, but for modern palates.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because I would say it's like half and half new stages, half old stages. Do you feel like if they make another one, like they need to just be all new?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I love these. Like the remixes are really well done, and they introduce like new mechanics that are great. But it feels like that was kind of their way of like trying to like get people into this,
Ease
and
the transition a bit.
Ease the transition. But unlike other games that I've seen do that, where very much like, oh, the old stages were the good ones because you're just remixing old good stuff, and the new stages are kind of whatever. I think the new stages are just as good, if not better. So,
I mean, I think
I want them to do new stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sega, involving these new developers for a new Sonic game was like, look, you have to do something that is classic.
Right.
But now with the success this has, I can't imagine that they're going to be limited, by...
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, like, okay, you guys did it. Carte blanche, go for it.
Other question, let's talk about this with Matt, where how do you feel like the Sonic team feels about this?
The Sonic team has had to have changed so much since the 90s. I can't imagine there's still the same people at the helm.
Oh, they're not all the way. The guy who made Sonic Adventure is still in there somewhere. But just like you have this team of people who've been like trying to like reinvent Sonic. Like they've literally been saying like we're bringing Sonic back to his roots since Sonic 06. And like hits or misses. A lot of people like Generations, but I feel like Sonic has still kind of been that joke for years. And now everyone's like, man, like Sonic's finally back. And it's by the people who have not involved in any of those games.
Right.
Like it took a whole new team. Like, I don't know, I'd feel like a little burned if I was maybe on that original like Sonic team to some degree, right?
It depends
Yeah.
what the original Sonic team...
Like a George Lucas.
Well, yeah, it depends like if they wanted to make those games that we don't deem good, or if they were told to make those games.
Right.
For them, it could feel like
yeah.
vindication. Like, see, I told you, fucking execs.
Yeah,
this is
right.
the Sonic. This is what it needs to be. So, who knows? It's hard to say.
It's cathartic for them, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They're like, can we help with that now? Can
Right.
we-
Yeah.
Make Burning Rangers too, I guess.
So Sonic Mania, very great game. Superb, you might say. It's
I
up
would
on
say superb.
GameSpot. You can go watch that. You read it. Matt Espinelli here did a great review of it. You can go check it out more. Play it on platforms. Hit
Play
me.
it.
Switch,
PC,
Xbox One, PS4.
you gotta wait a week on PC.
Sorry, wait on PC.
Yeah. Wait up. You play on your Switch.
Feeling it.
I think Switch is the version to play. There's some weird issues with like some people.
The system, like getting the home button to
You
work.
hit the home button and it like takes a couple seconds, or like I hit like
Significant
standby.
to get out of the game, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
really?
it just takes a couple seconds. It's really weird. But
There's
actually,
why
like,
are you leaving?
playing it like runs at 60 frames. Like I don't have any issues with it.
No, it's great. And it looks so good on that screen.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Oh, and it's like the levels are so fast too. Like it's the kind of thing where I just picked it up and like, oh, I'll just play like
I'm
an
done
act real
pooping,
quick.
but that was good.
Yeah, right.
Ooh.
Cool. Sonic Mania, good segue. That's pretty much our show. But giveaway is actually Sonic Mania as well, collector's edition. A couple of weird rules here. The PS4 is UK only. The Xbox One is US only. So if you're in either of those spots and want this really cool looking statue of Sonic and the base plate.
Huge.
It is light.
And that Genesis is a hair bigger than a standard Genesis too. So if that's your barometer, it's bigger than that.
That's cool. Sega cartridge
sure.
case with golden ring, metallic collector's card with download key, 12-inch statue with Sega startup audio, and the deluxe.
The box is pretty cool too. Like
collector's
it
box.
kind of is like emulating old Genesis boxes. I wish they actually came with an actual box. Though.
I know. Yeah, and they apparently like gave out like a manual at E3 to like people that like came by the booth or
Right.
something like that. So there's like a manual out there. The cartridge will fit in a Genesis cartridge box.
I saw someone put it on a Sonic and Knuckles.
So it'll fit. It'll fit on that. It'll
I don't
fit.
get these jokes.
It'll fit on the 32X. It will not fit in a standard Genesis just alone.
Oh, really?
But you can like finagle it. Obviously, it doesn't do anything. You
Yeah,
open it
you
up.
just
There's
put
a
it in there
coin
for
inside.
fun.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like we're this close to having an actual box and a manual, and we have a cartridge.
Yeah.
So
Well, I want like a limited run type. Companies that do stuff like that, like I'm 8-bit or something.
there are people who've uploaded, PSD files you can print out. But
print out my own.
But you want to
make my
buy it
own
from
box.
a company so you know it's official, right?
Yeah, right.
Cool. Yes.
Consumerism.
If you don't follow GameSpot on Twitter, go
I'd be
do
creative.
that and retweet that giveaway tweet from Chiva. She'll be putting that up on Twitter. She might be in the Twitch chat right now, maybe not. But go follow us, retweet that. Pick you later on the week again. PS4 is UK only. Xbox One is US only. And thank Shiva for setting that up. And we'll pick random winners later in the week. That's our show. I'm off for 2 weeks. Aww. Someone else has got a host. We don't really know who it's definitely going to be yet.
Not me.
But
okay, maybe me.
Yeah, I'm going to go work from our East Coast office, then go on vacation for a week. I don't know where I'm going to go on vacation. We'll figure that out.
Whoa.
Nah, just kidding.
Wherever the wind takes you?
Nah, I'll be in New York for like 2 weeks.
Oh.
I'm going to be hanging out, playing XCOM.
Just get like a staff, put like a, picnic.
A stick and bindle?
Bindle,
Yeah.
as it's called.
Oh, is it?
A hobo bindle.
People have been freaking out about you almost knocking your glasses off the desk all show.
We back when I was
Now it's
doing
making me
like
anxious.
hardware stuff, we were going to do a show about hardware deals, and it was going to be called Hard Times with Peter Brown, and it was going to be me with a hobo bindle with like graphics cards sticking out of it.
Ooh.
Thought it might be insensitive.
Payday Brown?
Well, it wouldn't be Hard Times if,
Yeah,
if I didn't have to buy
like
discount
Payday Brown
electronics.
As always,
Reek of booze.
No, I would just be, like pockets with like USB cables just flowing out of them. Just
Where is that?
homelessness isn't funny.
give $1. Yeah, anyways, you'll probably be playing. What are you going to be playing?
Man, I don't know. I'm wrapping up Yakuza right now. That review will go
Kiwami?
live early next week. Kiwami. That is the follow-up, although it's a remake of the original. It's a follow-up to Zero, the recent prequel. Other than that, probably more Sonic. Probably finish Observer. I feel like that's going to be in the game. I don't know. We're going to be talking about it later in the year, I think.
That's very subtle.
Shut up.
Rob, what are you playing? Observer. For those who couldn't hear
Observer.
this Wrecker Hauer whisper. Sean Luke.
Yeah, I want to play more of that. Definitely Sonic Mania.
I can play Uncharted, Lost Legacy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Will that review going up next week?
Tomorrow.
Soonish? Tomorrow. That goes up tomorrow. If you're interested in Uncharted Lost Legacy, Miguel Concepcion will have something up to read for you.
I
And
think
to watch.
I think tomorrow morning we're doing Triforce.
Dude, Triforce live stream.
Zelda Master Mode.
I'm just gonna
Trials.
I'm just
Of course
gonna
you
watch
are.
you play, and I'm just gonna make fun of you.
Cool. All right, Jean-Luc.
I haven't played Observer yet, but I definitely want to.
Yeah,
you're gonna like it.
Everything about that just seems like that is absolutely my jam.
Yeah,
So really
yeah.
want to play that.
Immersive Sims. You guys are like huge fans. Prey and all that jazz.
Yeah.
It's definitely that. It's good.
I love jazz.
And then I need to play Hellblade.
I have to finish
Oh,
that
I gotta
too.
finish
yeah,
that.
you
the
do.
other
You
one.
all do.
I
funny.
bought it, but I haven't played it yet.
It's funny thing like Observer and Hellblade. Like I would say are in that same boat of like gotta wear headphones, dim the lights, be alone.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if I can play Observer in this office. Like and be prepared for like whispers in your ear and just like crazy ambience. Yeah.
If you can get yourself into a fragile state by like not eating for 48 hours, do that too.
I'm like that all the time, so easy.
All right, as always.
Sweet.
I normally thank you in the back, but thank you for coming on today, hitting the desk, getting on that sweet wood.
Can I pimp my history of Uncharted video?
You very well may.
I played,
Not just kidding. Go for it.
Oh man.
Yeah, go check it out or pimp it. I'll tell. Do it.
History of Uncharted.
Yeah, Jean-Luc's been doing a
watch
History of
it.
series. He did one.
It's
History of
shorter than
Sonic.
the Sonic one.
Yeah.
There
Not
you go.
50 minutes. It's 30 minutes. It's good. It's very good.
It's a good primer for the Lost Legacy, which takes place after Uncharted 4. So going into it in terms of Naughty Dog development, the games themselves, you want to know more, you did a pretty comprehensive, research-oriented history of. Pretty cool video. Check it out. It's up. It went up this morning. So everybody go watch that. Or Sonic. You did a history of Sonic.
Yeah,
if
watch
you
that
want to
too.
play Sonic Mania too. Cool. That's our show. Thank you, Richard Lee. Thank you, Eric Tay in the back. That was a long show. 12:26.
Oh,
We're
boy.
glad you all stuck around to on YouTube, Twitch, GameSpot. And as always, they'll see you next week. I won't be here. I'll see everybody in September.
Am I going to be here next week?
On the desk
I don't.
or in the office?
We're gonna need another body.
We'll bring you on.
Uh-oh.
You could be Callie and you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Kelly-
we should
Kelly
get a
will be
dog.
back.
Let's bring a dog in here.
Can you
We can get a host.
Can you
Scraps, what do you think about
Or should
Observer?
Yeah.
Should I go?
Thanks
Should
for
I
coming
head
on,
back to-
Jean-Luc. We'll see you later.
Yeah, back to your office,
Have
please.
a good
got an
show,
office
or have a good week. I'll see you in a couple weeks. And
we
everybody,
refill his water?
thank you for joining very much. We'll see you next Wednesday at 11 a.m. here in San Francisco, California, on the lobby. Later.